You're listening to Zero Hour, a Scarlet Rhapsody podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Zero Hour. We are covering our first convention of 2019. Yay! Yay. With us on the shows, we got a full team in the house tonight. We have our whole West Coast representation going down here. I am your host, Ari Kagami, and we have Jared the Greek.
As always.
And also we have Stan.
Not always.
And then we also have Deb.
Yo, what up?
So we're going to talk about the first con we did this year. We're going to talk about Long Beach Comic Expo. We've been attending Long Beach Comic Expo since it was a very small con, only running for just maybe a couple hours on a Saturday. And the first Long Beach Comic Expo we attended, it was actually sharing space with a web series known as The Guild, and they were using Long Beach Comic Expo as a set piece.
Oh, God, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they're using it as a set piece for their web series, so, half the con was, a hot set, and half the con was oh, hey, it's just, a dealer's hall. And that's pretty much about it. Since then, Long Beach Comic Expo has really grown. It's 2 days. It's a Saturday and Sunday con, and it's taken over, it's usually held at the main side of the convention center, which I thought was really interesting because last year Long Beach Comic Con, which is the larger of the two, took place on the arena side.
Which is the smaller side.
And this year Long Beach Comic Expo took place on the larger side, and we only had about 3 programming rooms, half the size of the dealer's hall, and your main lobby, and maybe a laser tag room, and that was pretty much it. Alright, how shall we start this show?
Well, since we're already talking about the setup for the convention, I think there's a few things to point out. One, parking was pretty good this year. We never had any trouble parking.
Mm-hmm.
It was about $15 each day, and just go into the structure, easy in and easy out. However, it was kind of funky just getting from where we are in the South Bay, because we took the Vincent Thomas Bridge over, and there was bridge construction. So it kind of was a little bit we have to take an alternate route, sort of.
Which really wasn't too bad, because alternate route wasn't that far from our usual exit anyway. We still took the street exit that we usually, we took the street that we usually take to the Long Beach Comic Con anyways.
And then when we got there, like I said, the easy parking, which was good, and inexpensive comparatively to certain cons that have, especially anything at the LA Convention Center that just decides, we need $200 plus your firstborn child for the first hour, and then every additional hour after that requires more children.
Yeah, I'm just I don't have any child, so bye, I guess.
We also take fur babies.
Over my dead body!
So, yes, Long Beach does have that nice advantage. Also, outside, because they used the front area, they had room for the star cars again, which makes me happy. I always like seeing the star cars. They had the usuals. They had the Jurassic Park vehicles. They had kits. They had
a couple of
Bluesmobile. That was cool.
They had a couple of new additions, one of them being the Resident Evil mobile.
What was your favorite out of all of them?
I'm going towards the Bluesmobile. You don't see that one too often, and it's nice. There's definitely some ones that we've seen in the past that weren't there, like the A-Team van wasn't there, at least I didn't see it. And I do miss having the A-Team van or a DeLorean around, but kind of cool seeing the Bluesmobile. You don't get to see that too often. As great of a movie as that first movie is, no one ever really talks about it. So it's kind of cool seeing them just hey, Bluesmobile. And it's nice.
Oh man, I want to pick Bluesmobile, but you already did it anyway. But let's go second best, I guess. I want to say Resident Evil one, the one that we haven't seen that much while, because they actually had zombie heads all piped up outside.
I saw that. That was pretty cool.
Had they touched that zombie heads a little bit more, I would have given it a huge thumbs up. But
yeah, I added in a few mods on that car, but that was a pretty good starting car version. Yeah.
There was a potential.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully next time they show up, more details be added, and we can give it full thumbs up for sure.
And I really like the area where they display the cars for the star cars, because you get a lot of nice lighting. It's very well laid out, and I also have a little bit of bias too, because I remember when the LA Auto Show used to be at the Long Beach Convention Center. So oh yeah, seeing cars here just kind of gives me that hit of nostalgia when the LA Auto Show used to be in Long Beach. But if I had to pick a favorite car, I'd go to Jaguar from Austin Powers.
Not a bad choice. Last year, there was security, but security was really easy this year. It wasn't that absurd line we had whatever year that was.
By security, we're talking about going through the security line?
Yeah.
Okay, correct. Because I know Deb and I, we kind of have our security horror.
Well, that's a different aspect of security, and because the area was sharing space with another convention, things got a little troublesome. But for the main entrance into the Long Beach Comic Expo area, it was just as simple that 3 metal detectors set up, easy to slip right through. And thankfully, the metal detector, sometimes they get really sensitive, so like the buttons on my military jacket sometimes can set them off, or my belt buckle can set it off. Didn't set off, they weren't that extreme on the sensitivity, it was nice. So you didn't have people, in costumes having to stop and shred a whole bunch of their stuff, or step aside and get scanned for the wands or any of that kind of thing. And it went very smoothly, and I do appreciate that. Once we're inside, one of the things, of course, we did was set up the panel rooms. They were using the 104 section of the rooms, which is on the, I would call it the right side of the building, I guess.
From our perspective, yeah.
From the entry perspective.
It's the side that's closer to the Hyatt.
Thank you, the Hyatt side. That's the better way to say it. All 3 rooms were decently sized, and it's just kind of weird because it's 104A, 104B, and 104C, so at a certain point I just was like, I'm in room A, because it was just easier to just say the letter instead of, I'm not going to be in room 101 because it's not possible. So there's that. Panels were interesting choices for some of the topics, I'm going to say that for sure. The general stuff you're going to see on there, talk with this comic person, cosplayer does stuff, and a few other little things. But we hit up several different panels betwixt the all of us, and I figured we all kind of talk about a specific panel we really liked, and maybe after that we'll give some criticism for a couple panels that troubled us. Who wants to begin?
Okay, I'll start.
Go for it.
So one of the things I like about Long Beach Comic Expo is Space Expo. So this is like a partnership with the Columbia Memorial Center over in Downey, and basically there's a portion of the dealer's hall that's dedicated to space travel, space exploration, just a way to get kids into space exploration and history of us with the Apollo missions. So I attended 2 panels that were presented by Space Expo, and if you're really into like just the history of space travel, I highly recommend at least checking out one of these panels. So the first one I went to was Space Expo Presents Science Imitates Fiction, and Back Again. What was very interesting about this presentation is they talked about how pop culture influenced space travel. So they even talked about the early designs from Werner von Braun, and also kind of like just talking about like comics from like the 40s, the 50s, and also into the Cold War. Just kind of see and visualize, okay, these are fictitious characters who dream and eventually go to the moon. And they just have all these different designs and just kind of like all these little crazy things. Like Jared, you were with me in the panel for that one.
Yeah, they even talk about stuff like Flash Gordon having a single system rocket and just going planet to planet, no big deal, which is fairly impossible with our current technology level. Might be impossible just because physics exist, who knows? But for now, we're kind of stuck where we're at. I mean, heck, if you want to go back even in fiction, they even reference Jules Verne, and for Jules Verne's Earth to the Moon, they fired everyone out in a giant gun. So, as technology changes, we come up with different means and ways of thinking of how to get to where we need to get to in space.
And I also like the art designs that they shared, like from the 1940s. They had like the retro pinup space girl, like just riding a rocket literally to the moon, like riding on top of a rocket.
And they even had like the sexy Martian princess and stuff like that. Those tropes as well.
Yeah, I was quite interested. Like, I really like this aesthetic. And then we also talked about Walt Disney and like his vision for Tomorrowland. So you had like this generation that was just full of wonder and just kind of like, okay, what's out there? What's next? And there's like a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity towards space exploration and just kind of looking towards tomorrow. And it just, when he brought up Walt Disney, it's like, yeah, like when you think about like Tomorrowland of the past, it was a place of optimism. It was a place that was very future positive. Because I remember when it was like the creation of Tomorrowland, a lot of things that were seen in the future were very much placed in like this in dystopia. Because Tomorrowland was supposed to represent 1987 when it was built when it was conceptualized back in the 50s. Whereas fiction predicted a 1984 world.
It depends on who you're reading, though, because there's positive fiction as well. I mean, a lot of the sci-fi stuff that Roddenberry was inspired by, that led to Star Trek, was all built on the idea of an optimistic future. But those are the two extremes that were coming out around that time. Is our future, rockets to the moon and living on Mars and humanity working together for a better tomorrow, or is it we just nuke each other into nothingness?
What was cool about this panel is they had a comic book writer who also talked about his influences, and they also had someone who worked on the Apollo missions also on the presentation too. He's currently retired, obviously because of its age, but he shared a lot about what the Greatest Generation contributed to this whole stuff.
And their hopes for an optimistic future after the sacrifices they had to make.
And what I really liked about this presentation was, I know Jared, when the guy said this line, you stepped out for a bit, use El Baño.
No, for a phone call.
Oh yeah, that's right. Dick Tracy had to take a call.
Yep.
So I was calling Dick Tracy. And basically he gave us just kind of a really good way to end on the presentation. Was you know what, the jobs that we're going to have tomorrow for space exploration, they're not conceptualized yet. I go to all these lectures at Cal State Fullerton, all these engineering programs, and I can tell you right now, the job I had back then is not the job that is going to be happening right now. And he looked at this kid in the audience who was 9 years old. Is you, Marco, you're gonna be the future. And oh,
no pressure, kid.
That's a nice little optimism right there.
I could have used adult figure saying that to me when I was 9. That'd have been nice.
I did, because my dad worked for JPL. He's you're gonna be good at math. What? Yeah, that'd be in math. What is this? What is this mess? That was my inspiration. Hashtag Asian parents. There was another presentation that you and I attended. Space Expo presents NASA's New Horizons mission.
This was awesome.
Oh my god, it totally was. I didn't know what we were getting into, because we'll elaborate more on this in our Cheers and Jeers section of Long Beach Comic Expo, but there was no descriptors for any of the panels.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect out of it. It was sweet, this is a Pluto exploration panel. And it was run by two dudes from JPL. And they were just talking about, the concept and, where we are currently with exploring what Pluto is all about.
We have fired off our second fastest satellite only because the fastest one is rotating around the sun. The gravity is what helps speed, because it's space and inertia and... Anyhow, we have these clear pictures of Pluto, its other moons, and its weird freaking orbit, and the weird orbit of the moons around Pluto, and how Charon and Pluto are almost like two halves of a whole planet, the way they function and draw in their moons and what have you, and it's crazy, and the fact that we actually have this stuff is awesome, and it's still going out there, which means we could eventually get stuff from even further out, but as far as we know, there are no planets in our solar system beyond Pluto, as far as we know.
Because Pluto was recently discovered in
1930.
And what I liked about this presentation, it just kind of went on the history of Pluto, Planet X, and just kind of all the inspiration and the science fiction that was inspired from it, as well as how the press reacted to it. Is this larger? Is this bigger than Jupiter?
And then there's the way Lovecraft reacted to it, which is aliens come from there and mess with us.
And then also what I liked about this presentation is they had photos from the Hubble Space Telescope, which was just essentially a pixelated, scrambled image of Pluto. Pluto as an 8-bit character.
Yeah.
And then we see all the high-res stuff, oh snap, you can actually see the geography, you can actually see the glow of the atmosphere.
Which is amazing to think that it actually has an atmosphere being that far out. So we're learning more and more as we see more of this, as technology improves and we can see more of our galaxy, we are learning more about how our galaxy works.
And I really appreciate the energy of the two presenters from JPL, because they really could explain a lot of these some of the more difficult, scientific kind of processes to an audience that also is into this has space exploration stuff, but might not know the terminology and the engineering details of it. But they really made it fun. They really made it interactive too.
Yeah, my brother would have lost his mind at this panel. He would have ran up and started asking them questions I need to know. Like, yes, space nerd. You go ask them. You ask those other space nerds questions, you space nerd.
But yeah, Space
Our-
Expo. If you're into space exploration, highly recommend checking out these panels and presentations.
I'll go next with my favorite panel, and this was kind of a surprise to me because I didn't know what to expect going in, because again, that lack of descriptors, which was Joe on Joe, a discussion about G.I. Joe stuff, or something along those lines. And I was like, I like G.I. Joes, let's go. And it was like the host of the podcast, Joe on Joe, which is a guy named Joe who talks about G.I. Joe stuff, and it was a guy from the G.I. Joeberg, which is a South African Johannesburg local podcast about G.I. Joe. Just try to absorb that one into your brain. A collection expert and a cosplayer / collection expert talking about just G.I. Joe, its positive influence on their lives, why it's been so popular for so long, and some of the events and stuff they've gone to, the rare toys they have. It was really cool, and it just was so happy. It was just, hey, we love this franchise, and it's awesome, and you guys love this franchise, and it's great. We had a veteran go on and talk about his love for G.I. Joe and even modding some of his toys, and we had not that many people come up and ask questions, but it was kind of nice having that. Afterwards, I talked to a couple of the guys about how my brother used to modify our toys when we got bored of some of them, and how we have a friend, Ramses, who would have lost his mind at this panel because he is the biggest G.I. Joe fan I know personally. So he would have really liked this as well, and he's, when I sent him a picture of the guys and I just told him what the panel was, he was like, oh! It was clearly probably hurt him a little bit not being at Long Beach for this one panel. But a lot of fun, and I like the positivity of that, because not every panel I went to had positivity as a theme, but this one was, and that was nice.
So here's the thing: is that I'm still recovering from food coma. So
I think we all are.
Yeah. So my memory may have a few holes here and there. But let's talk about the toy design one. Which
that was a cool one. That was one of our ones from yesterday.
Yes, it was breaking into toy and product design. The 3 panelists are from Loot Crate. And go on.
I thought there was someone from a different company. I know one or two of them for Loot Crate.
The moderator, I believe, was from
Lauren Stern.
Yeah. Was it?
Yes, I believe her name is Lauren Stern. She's an author, and I know her because she also writes for Pop Lurker, yeah.
Pop Lurker, yeah.
Okay.
And also disclosure, she loves our Make My Mecha panels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So, I have so much gratitude towards her. And let's talk about that panel. The 3 panelists are all from Loot Crate, but their origin was just different vastly.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
So,
one of them is actually Japan Clothing.
Oh yeah, the middle. Oh man, I'm actually blanking out on everyone except Logan.
Yeah,
we'll
Japan
get
ALA Clothing. That's one of my favorite brands.
Yeah, and one of the other panelists, Logan, he started off as a football player and then due to the injury, he turned into comic art and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and every one of the panelists came from different origin, but they all wound up in Loot Crate, and each of them had these ideas, and their procedures, like how they pitch in, how many times they get rejected. And it was such a great insight.
Yeah, one of the guys worked for Hasbro for a while and talked about just how restricting it was because it's just so many layers of committee before a toy gets made there versus in the freedom he kind of has now where they're just pitching ideas and having a good time. But it was interesting. I love that someone did ask that question, like, how'd you guys all get here? And it's like, well, the good news is there's no route. All of us have different stories. It's just you gotta just kind of aim for it via any route that works well for you. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. But everyone was really cool. I was expecting them to be kind of boring or too technical, but everyone was pretty cool, and they explained things really clearly to the audience.
And it felt genuine, and understandably so, because coming from different background, means that they got their own opinions about how to approach this industry, and it's very insightful, actually. So I'm really grateful for this panel. So Logan mentioned that everyone was asked what their favorite figure was, or toy, whatever.
It was what is the
weirdest toy in your
collection? The weirdest toy in your house or whatever.
Thank you. And Logan talked about this like little figure with green hair.
It's like a tiny girl with green hair. And I was like,
No,
what?
I know, green hair, but then went on to say like white shirt and then brown shorts. And we're anime fans, and my goodness, did we piece things together? And
we're just like, green hair? What?
Green hair,
What kind of character is this?
brown shorts.
His green hair doesn't narrow it down.
Right.
Yeah.
But then brown short, and then it's like...
And then it clicked on me, and I was like, I turned to stand, and I was like, dude, it's Yotsuba.
And then she just said that, I started busting up because I just had the image of her in my head. I'm like, oh my god, he's Yotsuba. But not only that, but he has his figure set up in a way where it looks like she's just flipping the bird, which is great.
Which I can explain later, but it turns... after the panel, we went to him, like straight up, showed him, picture of Yotsuba, and he was just ecstatically like, yeah, that's her. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And I guess somehow...
Because now he knows.
It's like we solved the crime or something.
Yeah!
It's like having a thing on your collection for the longest time. Go, I don't know what it is, but I want to know who this is.
And we were supposed to meet him the next day at his booth,
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the flipping art part, though, is that if he owns a Revoltech Yotsuba, the best I could think of is that Yotsuba comes with a trigger hand for her water guns. Yes. Yeah. You place it in a most awkward angle, it comes out looking like it's flipping off.
Yep.
That's the best scenario I could think of.
Which is one of those points of like, I need the Revoltech version of Yotsuba now.
Good luck.
Yeah, it was
not a common thing to be found.
No, yeah, because it wasn't the OG Revoltech to come out. So.
Although it dawns on me that there's probably other characters that have like the I'm holding a gun or whatever hands, and then I could just set them up that way.
You could, yeah.
I need to go through some of my old Pretty Cures, see if they have the design to hold their knick-knack, and see if I can just have Cure Passion flipping up.
Wow, way to go, Jared. Jeez.
That'll make me happy.
Make you happy, sure.
Oh my goodness.
But,
yeah. But I do remember that night he was very ecstatic.
Like almost as if like he met his old buddies,
Yeah.
And my goodness.
Yeah, and it was the point. I was like, I need to give you a loot crate. I was like, whoa! I was like, what? Whoa! What?
Yeah. I mean, listen, like when we go talk to the guest of honor and then just reveal their age-old mystery and what have you, oftentimes you're gonna get like, oh my goodness, thank you,
Yeah.
like this was that times 100, and then we get a loot crate.
Yeah, he was like hugging me. I
know.
was like, whoa!
Oh my god! Like I said, like like meeting old buddies, like meeting old college buddies out of nowhere, like
Yeah, he was pretty chill.
He was, and then we actually got the loot crate, and
the very next day.
The very next day, and then also we talked extensively about all the other stuff, like video games and what have you. Fun fact: his son is StarCraft player at the core, very skilled. I can tell from his description of Zerg Rush. So.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it was really great talking to like him and his whole family. It was just absolute bliss, And the loot crate itself wasn't too bad either. Like inside it comes with D&D T-shirt, which is
surprisingly some Escape from New York merchandise.
Yeah,
like okay.
Yeah, and then of course Fallout figure.
Yeah, you got a little Vault Boy.
Yeah.
I believe.
A lot of Bumblebee stuff, so
a lot of Transformers.
Yeah, Transformers stuff. So yeah, those are the major ones, and oh my goodness, we love it, So thank you so much, Logan.
Yeah, shout out to Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorites is actually Life in Animation. That's the short version. I don't know the full title.
Yeah, we're gonna go into gripe about.
Well, yeah, that's in the gripes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a couple of animators, I believe. Oh gosh, Chuck Patton, I think.
Yes, Chuck Patton.
Chuck Patton. I apologize if I mess up names. Samantha Glow.
Mm-hmm.
The running joke, Larry Hudson, and Ian McGinty.
Ian McGinty.
Oh.
Yeah. The Larry
One
part.
of people was yelling. I thought that was Ricky Simmons, so I wasn't sure if that was Ricky Simmons or not.
Oh no, they did mention Ricky Simmons though, but
Okay.
Larry Houston was the other panelist.
Okay.
Oh, he does more comic stuff, not animation.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah,
he's really boisterous and loud. So some guy was yelling at the beginning. I could hear it in the panel room I was in, and I was like, "Is that Is it Ricky too? Kellen?
No, I think I think you're talking about the moderator, you know?
Yeah, maybe the moderator.
Yeah, because he was very boisterous. We'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, he's very charismatic guy. But,
but go on.
But, yeah, I mean, it's just the basic, like, the Q&A, you know, how they got started, what are their inspirations, and, you know, what works they're doing currently. They gave really good animation advice, and there's some I'm like, oh, shoot, that's a bad habit. I've been doing that. I need to keep that in mind. And, yeah, they're learning about, how to keep up with deadlines and all that really good advice. And I was like, and how to stay connected. And Samantha mentioned one good advice was about take care of yourself. Be aware about your mental health awareness, because not a lot of people will understand or mention about that, unfortunately. So I was very glad, actually, that they mentioned about that. And yeah, they did the rest of like Q&A to the audience, and of course they did a little contest of like, oh hey, pitch a cartoon character to the group.
And when the Wreck-It Ralph 2 Ralph Breaks the Internet DVD, which isn't even to be released until Tuesday apparently.
Yeah, they were doing like
pre-release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because I was first in line to pitch my character. And okay,
I know you were first.
I know
That's pressure.
I know. Well, no, I didn't feel any pressure. You know, like I was pretty sure that look, someone else is gonna come up with a better idea. I'm gonna lose. I'm just gonna go out, whatever. You know.
You know what dawns on me? I would have loved to have pitched one of my characters from one of my college projects. I think that actually would have been kind of fun.
Yeah. So the idea I pitched, the character I pitched was the stick figure who is amnesic and trying to figure out what kind of cartoon character he was before he lost all his memory.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, like, the moderator was asking, wait, what's his name? And I just made one up, and that's the funny part, is that he doesn't have a name because he's going through different mediums, so his name's going to be different.
For each, like, type of medium he's in. That actually is a really fun way to do that, though. You need to have a good serious title in order to make sure people remember what it's supposed to be. And that called, like, No Memory Stick Figure Man, like, probably wouldn't be
I know,
a great
but
title.
listen, title I can figure out later.
Right,
if it
you're
gets greenlit.
pitching the character.
Yeah.
It'd be like me pitching one of my old characters from The Blade of the West or something like that. And, you know, well, it was called The Blade of the West because it was a project I actually worked on, but the Blade himself was basically a samurai with no name kind of character. So, you know, he had no name. But, I mean, he had a name, he just didn't tell anyone what it was, like the Man of No Name, you know? The guy in Yojimbo has a name, he just doesn't say it.
Yeah. So pretty much that was a pitch, and like their reaction was like, "Ooh, that's interesting," you know. And then I'm just like, "Okay, that's good, okay." And then all these other pitches come out. It came down to 3 people. There were 3 DVDs. I thought there was just one, by the way. You know, the way they stationed it, it looked like it's just one person is just getting one DVD. It's like, oh, one person's gonna get it. All right, turns out there was 3, and I got called number 1. You know, and I'm just like, actually, one? What? You know? It's like, dude, here's the thing. I thought of that concept in 5 minutes, okay? That's probably my weakest concept, like, in my entire concepting career, lifespan.
G.I. Joe got its title because someone was watching a movie called The Life of G.I. Joe or something like that. Or The Death of G.I. Joe, or it was called something like that. And he's like, oh, that's a name for our product.
But that's a name for the product, though, you know?
Right. Well, G.I. Joe was originally just G.I. Joe. It wasn't, you know, all the characters. It was that one Army Man figure.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, inspiration comes from the weirdest places and what have you.
I get that, but, you know, I'm grateful. I want to thank the panelists for picking my stuff, you know, out of all those ideas.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Deb, if you want to contribute any more, you know.
Well, the one thing that came out, I actually made a connection with, I believe Ian and Samantha, because they're actually going out, I believe. So yeah, I just basically thank Samantha. I was, hey, thank you for actually just talking about mental awareness.
So there were some enjoyable panels. We definitely have some notes we'll get to in our gripe section, but first let's move on to probably the biggest draw for this entire convention, the dealer hall. I went to the dealer hall a couple times. There wasn't really anything I was looking for, though I did find those giant corgi plushes, which I call Fat Scots after my dog Scott.
What was that name of that booth? Because I have a couple of good stories from them.
Anime book?
Anime books?
So there was that, and then they also had that Moogle speaker, which was great. Except I put on How Did This Get Made, and Paul Scheer like immediately said bullshit, and I was like, right, yeah, they swear on this podcast. I felt like really bad. I should have just turned on a game or something, because best part is I get to bleep out myself saying.
Question, there's a Moogle speaker?
Yeah, it's a little Moogle, and then he has like a little trumpet.
Oh my, I never
Or a
saw
little
that.
horn
It
thing.
was on the other side of the cash register.
Oh,
Yeah.
That might
They also had
explain.
a fat chocobo clock that I was thinking about taking a photo of and sending to a friend of mine who voiced a chocobo who's been going through some rough times, but I didn't take the photo, and I'll send her some sort of I'll send her a picture of my chocobo plush and be like, hey, remember chocobos? They're awesome. But that booth was kind of cool. They had some fun little Disney toys and stuff like that, I know.
I got the Q Posket figures of Briar Rose. Apparently, Disney is going to stop selling the Q Posket figurines in the States for some reason. And there's a couple of Disney people just trying to stock up on whatever Disney Q Poskets that we can get our hands on. It's like, okay, I like Briar Rose, so I'll just get all the Briar Rose stuff and things. And they even had like bridal variations of Disney princesses. And Jared, a few of the Cinderellas and the Alices caught your fancy.
Yeah. But I didn't grab anything. I don't know.
I also
Wasn't in a spending mode this time around.
Yeah, I also grabbed a Fujiko Q Posket. It's Fujiko in her black cat suit. You know, the outfit that people tend to confuse my Fujiko cosplay for Black Widow. Yeah, that version. So I just ended up getting that, and it was nice of them because I made the comment about like, oh yeah, I just wish you guys had the Fujiko Q Poskets. Like, yeah, we can bring that to you on Sunday. Like, ma'am, you have my business. So they ended up keeping that one aside, and like, okay, I'm giving her a good home. So I'm always happy to give anime books my money because they always have like figures at the prices I like, and they also seem to have a good variety of things that I enjoy: Fate, Love Live, Disney.
Yeah, it was fun looking around at their stuff and just kind of getting distracted by the plushes. They even had like one of the classic Fat Pikachus from Red and Blue, which I love Fat Pikachu from Red and Blue. And if you're a classic Pokemon player who played the original games, you know what I'm talking about when I say Fat Pikachu. And if you didn't, you missed out.
I also tried out some corset dresses from Damsel in This Dress. They're actually based out of Salt Lake City in Utah. So I'm like, oh wow, you travel all this way for a Long Beach Comic Expo. And they were really cool because there was like no pressure to buy, because I know sometimes when it comes to some certain corset people, they do give you some pressure to buy. But they were very nice because they totally understand, like, okay, yeah, you want to try on the product before you commit to the product, especially with something like a corset. And I took this opportunity to like just get them to just get me to size up to the proper size, and also gave me an opportunity to also learn how to tighten up a corset correctly as well. Because I just got my first corset, which is from Orchard, which is more of a waist trainer corset that you wear underneath your clothes, whereas Damsel in the Dress, it's something you wear like over. It's more of a vanity kind of corset. And they had like a line that was inspired by Disney princesses. So they have like Snow White themed ones. They have an Aurora one. They even had a Briar Rose themed one based after her like woodsy dress. Like I love Briar Rose. And then they also had like a print based off the Haunted Mansion Damask type of wallpaper too. And I was just like looking at these, like, okay, let me just get what my size is, and let me just stalk their website, and just let me just see if I can just design and build like something based off of this, because I like the concept that they had like corsets inspired by Disney princesses. Lo and behold, found out that I could fit into a size 27 or 28. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in checking out corsets, I highly recommend Damsel in the Dress. And if they're at a con, highly recommend getting yourself sized up. And they totally understand if you just want to just check out your size, because they might not always have your size available in the style you want. So it's always cool to just check out, you know, just try and see it for yourself. Okay, any other dealers hall stuff you guys checked out?
Alright, so I believe day one, I decided to, hey, let's drop by Gear Oils, and I did, and because I've been meaning to pick up some anxiety oil. Yeah, this is the first time meeting her. She's a very total sweetheart. I really love the shopkeeper.
Yeah, her name's Tara. She's amazing.
Tara is incredible. Wow, she has great vibes. and so I finally got to thank her because I've been borrowing I've been borrowing Vicky's oils, and I'm just like, it was just like, yeah, it's been helping me getting through the work, and I can tell that she really appreciated it. And so, yeah, I finally bought some oils, and it's going to be very helpful. For sure.
Yeah, I ended up picking up a couple oils too, but just kind of know like what kind of mileage you're looking at here with the oils. The anxiety oil lasted me for about a year, and Deb and I were just kind of like sharing it in between, and Deb actually used it to fill up her diffuser vial a couple of times. I've had to use it like almost on a daily basis, so like even a small bit, that's the smallest vial, can last you about a year. And I've heard of them last year at Long Beach Comic Expo. So I've been using their product for about a year, and that stuff lasts a while, and it's super effective too. Because Jared, you had a tummy ache.
Well, this isn't the first time I've used their stuff either, but yeah, I was having some stomach issues connected to recovering from a sickness, and that really helped. It took the pain away for a good hour or two, I would say, and it started triggering up again, but it did help temporarily alleviate stuff, which made me feel a lot better, and I do feel a lot better today, because I was able to get some sleep without being sick to my stomach. And, but the way I was sold on them from when we first met them, came across the booth, was I was on the verge of a migraine, and she used the migraine oil on me, and then I was like, well, okay, let's see if your magical oil can magically... Oh, I feel a lot better. So after that, I was like, no, this is pretty legit, and I did meet someone years ago who was working in aromatherapy stuff, and I went from like blistering rage to feeling pretty chill because of the stuff that person used. So I already knew that aromatherapy already had some actual vital stuff, but there's a difference between mood alteration and alleviating a migraine, and it worked, and alleviating a stomach ache, and it worked. So I really do recommend this. It might sound a little weird and not the usual answer to the things, but for the ailments that can be cured with essential oils and the right smells, this works very well. I very much like the gear oils, and I'm glad that we picked up a few extras to try out a few alternate things to help with daily little problems we face.
All right, so I guess that's it for the dealer's hall.
Yep. Now, as we said earlier, there were a few things we really wanted to talk about that weren't great, some of which are the con's fault, some of which aren't. And I think the first thing I really want to talk about, because Deb and I talked about this shortly after we left the con, was moderator problems. So the last panel I went to was a real downer, and I'm not going to say the name of the panel because the panelists were good people, and I don't want them getting smeared for this. But the moderator, oh God, was the moderator killed the entire vibe of the panel. It was like fun and a little bit lighthearted, asked a question that completely changed the room. You could tell that the people at the table did not want to answer the question. People in the audience were like, this isn't what the topic of the panel's about. And yeah, you can't do that. Now, I guess I will say the name of the panel. It was the nostalgia panel about how nostalgia affecting comics today.
Yes, I wanted to check out that panel because one of my favorite writers, Margaret Bennett, was on it, and she writes for DC Bombshells. And I was wondering, like, well, because of the lack of descriptors in the programming guide, I just kind of assumed, like, okay, are we going to talk about how we talk about the past and present it in comics that we can bind to present? I was kind of like, hey, that could be interesting. And then when I messaged you, you're all like, rescue me.
Yeah.
Like, is it that bad?
Well, because my thought was this is going to be a whole, like, oh, how did something from your childhood inspire you to continue your career? You know, what did you read as a kid that made you want to write comics or what have you? And I was like, oh, well, that could be interesting. So there's different directions you can go with as to what this panel would be about. And it began kind of like that, and then she asked a question that made the panelists uncomfortable, it made the people in the audience uncomfortable, and as soon as that hit, I was like, I'm out. But the problem is I was sitting so close up in the row, and when you're a guy who walks up because a certain question is asked, it makes you look like some sort of jerk. And I wasn't dressed in, like, incognito, you know, a Captain America shirt and jeans. I was dressed as Dick Tracy, so I kind of stand out in a room full of people dressed in basically normal clothes, and I needed an excuse to leave, and thankfully you came up, and like, oh, we have to go? Like, I literally said that out loud so that people around me would be all like, oh, I guess he's leaving because he has some sort of, like, other thing going on. And I was like, I don't want to leave because I'm massively uncomfortable because of a really bad question that was asked, and the moderator should have known better.
So it seems to me like the moderator just killed the vibe and the mood.
Yep.
Not just within the audience, but even within the panelists. Like, oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
when the question was asked, the first person she turned to answer was literally like, yeah, my way of, it was like that. It was like, but that long pause where I was literally writing notes, I looked up at him going like, did his hard drive crash? Wait, what happened? He started a sentence and just stopped, and I realized because his brain is going like, how do I answer this about people getting angry? How do I answer this about people getting angry? And he just talked about, the importance of positivity, and I'm like, good answer. Versus me, I think if I was up there and she asked that question, I'm like, what? That's not what this panel is about. Don't go putting me on the spot like that. Are you insane? And then everyone looks at me like I'm the bad guy. I'm like, no. You're a terrible moderator. You should leave. I'll take over. And then everyone's like, you're a dick. And I'm like, I am, because I'm wearing a yellow hat and a yellow coat. But that's not the point here. The point is I'm a better moderator. Because I am.
Deb, you also had moderator issues too?
Not as bad as that one.
For sure.
Yeah. No, our moderator's issue wasn't as bad as that, but I'll tell you what though. The problem with
I think it was towards the end, honestly.
No, it's everywhere. The thing is though, when you have 4 panelists, you have to really manage the clock correctly. That means less humor in between the subject. And this guy really tried to ham up to the panelists and the audience with his humor, which is like, I get what you're trying to do, but hear me out, okay? You're short on time. You're already 5 minutes late because Larry Houston came in late. So at this point, you gotta really hurry the hell up, and that means you need to talk less. And he didn't.
Yeah, amateur mistake.
Oh, the worst amateur mistake, here comes, okay? The pitching, okay? He set the rule. 3 sentences. Done. He let few people get away with more than 10 sentences.
Yeah, that's not a good idea either, because one, if people are nervous, they will just ramble on, and while it is unfortunate to cut someone off partway through, you gotta go and say, hey, we don't have all day and there's a lot of people in line. I think your concept is XYZ, and if they say yes, and I go, good, next person.
Exactly. You're up there, especially when your time is short, you're up there to make sure the panel runs on time. Whether people like you or not because you cut someone off, that's a whole nother story, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Your job as a moderator is to, moderate.
Yes, and make sure things are going at a timely manner, because if not, you'll end up running your panel long, which happened on that panel, I believe.
Yeah.
Significantly long.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
it took a while so much, I was like, I'm just gonna leave and wait.
So, you bolted at 4:40ish, I think.
Yep.
The panel was supposed to end at 4:30. You bolted at 4:40.
Yep.
What time did it come out? 5-ish? Good 5 o'clock, 5:10?
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, so there's overclock, and then there's this.
And then beyond that, on our panel issues, of course, was the fact that on the website, the schedule was not posted. On the actual schedule that we got printed up there, which is nice that they have these, for that animation panel, the reason why we don't have the proper title for it is because it literally says on this, parentheses, animation panel, end parentheses.
Because it looks like a placeholder, and I'm like,
It
what?
is.
First time I look at that, I'm just like, man, this is shady.
Yeah.
Because on the website, when you click on the panel section, it takes you to a part of the website where oh, if you like the sign for panels, I'm like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. And when I try to look for a panel listing, I'm not seeing it there. And even then, we don't even have descriptors like who's on the panel, what the panel is all about. So we only have to go off their word on the schedule.
Yeah, you guys see a title and just guess.
The only time you really heard anything close to description was if you're in the dealer's hall, they would say the name of the panel, who's on the panel, and where it's at.
The panel about something. Have a stop by at the 4B. Thank you.
Yeah, because that's how I learned about the animation panel, that it was still going on. It's like, oh, by the way, we have these animators from Wreck-It Ralph, and we're giving away a Wreck-It Ralph DVD.
That was a panel we went to.
That was the panel we went to.
And like, okay, this could be fun. Like, let me see if Jared's on his way. Then Jared's like, rescue me.
By the doors, they did have one thing that had those electronic kind of billboard thingies that had just the listing of the names, again, for the what's in the panel rooms.
Right.
And A was clearly listed, then B and C shared one, but B, like, was up for, like, 2 seconds and would go away, and then, like, C would be up for, like, 30 seconds, and then, like, 2 seconds of B, and then I'm like, you need to adjust the timing on this board.
Wait a minute. This sounds familiar. This sounds awfully familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I discussed this like last year.
Yes, you did.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's the same exact problem. So it really would have been nice. It would have been great to have proper descriptors. It would have been great to have the second billboard work properly. Or 3 billboards. I don't care. One or the other. I thought it was 3 at first. I went to the billboard that's by door B, and it was showing the C schedule. I was like, wait, where's the B panel listings? And then I came back to it later, and it flips to B. I was like, oh, it's B. It flips off. And I'm like, all right, wait it out. Let's see if I can see what's on at 2:30. Oh, no, I want to see if the animation panel had a title. That's what it was. I was like, okay, let's see if the... it's what was it? Life and Art. Okay, let's wait for it again. My time as an animator. Good, okay. Or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, boy.
I mean... Aside, okay, this is specifically a convention issue. I think we all discussed this, but the security, obviously, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's like convention specific, though, so it's kind of like we're really kind of going to the gray area.
Yeah, it's more the convention center's staff, I believe, right?
I still think it's something worth talking about. So if you've kind of been following our podcast of Zero Hour, like for the past couple of years, one of the things that we don't like about Otakon, especially when it was being held in Baltimore, is that there's a certain type of security personality that just really power trips and just likes to give attitude to attendees, like, wait, did someone hurt you kind of attitude. So my experience with them was, okay, I need to enter into the convention center. It was day 1, and I thought I could enter from the Hyatt side because the way where I was entering was from the Hyatt side. And then I was like, okay, let me just see if this door's open. And then security was just giving me attitude. It's like, you have to go on the other side. This is exit only, but they weren't saying it in like, you know, there's like the kind of authoritative kind of thing where you feel a thank you is worth mentioning after they tell you where to go. But no, this person was just giving me some attitude about it, even when I told him, like, oh, I just need to pick up my press pass. Like, okay, lady, don't give me any attitude about it. And Deb, like, you also had an issue with security as well.
Well, I think we were just standing there, we were just curious about something, but once we got closer to that particular area, this security kind of gave me that look and a head shaking of like, hey, if you come here any closer, you're going to be in trouble. And that's why we're like, no, let's not. Yeah, and we just turned away.
Listen,
okay,
we might as well just see what that was, you know? Okay, listen, that was a bridal expo, okay? What was she gonna do, throw a bouquet at us?
Well, it's security, so they could put you in zip ties.
I'm joking, but sure, let's take this serious.
You asked the question.
I know that, but still, you know?
So yeah, it's just the security was a little bit, like, I had no problems with them. I had a good experience, but I know, like, you guys, and I think I've heard some other people complaining around about the security getting a little aggressive sometimes.
Especially when they were, like, just shooing us out of the convention center.
Yeah, that was my only time of experience. That was literally the person's like, get out now! And I'm like,
what?
I think there's a panel still going right now. I think the final panel of the day, which I like to make fun of because it's hosted by a cosplayer, and I think that's hilarious that it's just like, you can have the final panel of the day. And
actually, by the time she yelled, that panel would have been over anyway.
Would it?
Yeah, it ended at 5.
Oh, okay. So it would have been over, but like immediately over. It's just like panel is over, get out. It's like, whoa, all right. Like most conventions give you like a little leeway, like an hour after most things are over with, for everyone to kind of shuffle out. But nope, it's 5, get out. And I know we've had that at other cons before, and it's just every time it happens, it's so jarring because I'm like, look, I'm not camping here, but
no, Otakon, they like to sweep that place clean.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here.
We even had that at Expo one year too, where the Expo people were like, get out. It's 5, leave. It's like, whoa, okay, sorry.
Yeah, sure. What?
I was leaving anyways. Please stop yelling at me as I'm walking towards the door.
Other than security, any other of our jeers with this con?
I get fed up with the sheer amount of photographers wandering around and blocking aisleway space, but there's a lot of cons I could complain about the sheer amount of photographers blocking aisle space.
Especially this time, the dealer's hall, especially, is shorter, smaller, and everything's more compact. So, really, realistically speaking, not much we can do about that.
Yeah, and like obviously, it's not like I can prevent people from showing up as photographers. It's just that's more of a pet peeve, really, more than anything else.
It feels like it should be like common courtesy, like, hey, don't take your photography equipment and put it in the middle of a hallway or like an area where people are going to be walking in and out of. Because there were times like, okay, do you really need to like have your photo shoot like in this public area where I'm trying to get from point A to point B?
Yeah, there was a lot of that, especially on Saturday. That was all over the place, and I just, to the point that even when I went upstairs to try to find like a quiet place, I could not find a quiet place because there's always some photographer running around, and I'm like, I just want people to shut up. I'm not feeling good.
I mean, the photographers that I've worked with, at least we decided to like, okay, let's just go into like a private space and get our photos done there rather than like being intrusive to paying attendees.
It'd be nice if more people had that idea.
Shout out to Robert, shout out to Sunny, and shout out to Don.
So I think that covers most of our jeers. It wasn't really that bad of a con. It was, as a smaller con, there's only so much you can really discuss when it comes to problems, because this convention was going for a while. It felt smaller than before.
Oh, it definitely felt smaller.
Okay, good. Glad I'm not the only one who thought that.
Because the dealer's room was about like almost like half the size of what it usually is. And they also knew they cut down like just some of the spaces that they used to have. Like they also cut down the space for like Autograph Alley. I don't think there really was much of a cosplay corner.
But there were cosplay guests according to the website, so
they did have tables, but they didn't like have how like in the past before you had like huge signs like towering over like this is cosplay corner, this is Autograph Alley.
So there's a story about that. The Autograph Alley was there, but it was on the social square for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, take your time with that.
That seems like that would be problematic with lines, but okay.
There wasn't that long of a line too. That's the thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that reminds me of another pet peeve just on the guest real quick. On the website, it has the guest's name, but not even a descriptor if you click on the guest's name, or anything even just under it going like, Larry Houston. It did go Larry Houston, parentheses, 2 or 3 of the series he worked on. It doesn't have that. It just says Larry Houston. Now, I know who Larry Houston is because he's a known name in the industry, or like they had Dan DiDio there. I know who Dan DiDio is. He's a known name in the industry. But there's a lot of names on there where I'm like, I don't know if you're an actor. I don't know if you're... Some people were clearly cosplayers because their image was a cosplay. But some people, it's like, I don't know if you're a writer, an artist, an actor. I don't know I don't recognize your name. You're at this con. I don't know what your deal is. It'd be really nice if under it went like, Bob in The Office, or something like that under someone's name. It wasn't... No one from The Office was at this con. But... the idea would be something along those lines,
you want to know something more shady, Keith Silverstein, who voices Torbjorn from Overwatch, right?
Uh-huh.
I thought he'd be there all weekend because, his name was there, there was no specific date or whatever. Turns out he was only there Saturday.
And there you go. That's another thing, is a lot of cons will actually tell you Saturday only or Sunday only or something like that.
So it's like...
They didn't have that information either, which also would have been really helpful on the website if you were looking for a specific guest. Or, a specific autograph you wanted to add to your infinite collection of Overwatch autographs.
I mean, I already got his.
Oh, well then, never mind.
Yeah.
But other people might not.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes kind of an issue too, and you really need to... I don't know who their web designer person is, or person who's in charge of the website, but they need to be replaced or do their job right next year.
Actually, it's probably the entire coordinator, because few people I talked to over the Artist Alley, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were saying like the coordination this year was weird.
Okay. So it's problems all over the place. The website is probably just a symptom of said problems.
Mm-hmm.
But it really drove me crazy because I'm like, well, maybe there's a comic person I really want to talk to, but maybe I wouldn't know their name off the top of my head because I'm not an encyclopedia of every comic book artist. Or especially if some of these people are voice actors who are like, oh, this guy was the voice of, Bumblebee from G1 Transformers. Well, I don't know the name of that actor because his name isn't Frank Welker or other famous guy from Transformers whose name escapes me right now. Whatever, doesn't matter, who cares. Optimus Prime guy. But Peter Cullen, thank you. So it isn't...
Okay.
Again, this proves my point. I couldn't even remember Peter Cullen's name off the top of my head, which proves the point that if someone is a voice actor in one of those shows, that doesn't mean I necessarily memorized every person's name. I remember, like, Maurice LaMarche because I've seen him before, and he has a very unique name, and he's the brain. You know, or someone like, say, Billy West, who I know because I've seen the credits to Futurama 8 trillion times in my life. But, you know, I don't know who voiced any of the G.I. Joes. I mean, I probably do if someone told me, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But off the top of my head, I can't name a single G.I. Joe actor. I can't name a single He-Man actor. I cannot name a single, even go more recent. Outside of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, I'm not sure if I could name another actor from Batman the Animated Series. Adrienne Barbeau, Catwoman. But the point is, I can name 3 people from Batman the Animated Series. So Mr. Freeze could have been there, but I don't know.
Probably not.
Oh God, the actor's dead, isn't he?
Yep.
God damn it. So again, proving my point about me and the names of voice actors. So, please, update the website, and whoever the coordinator is, replace them with someone who can do the job, because it would help out Artist Alley, it would help out guest relations, it would help out the website, it would help out panels, and it'd make everyone a whole lot happier at the con, I think.
So let's talk about like some of our favorite things about Long Beach Comic Expo. Deb, would you like to start?
Like favorite, just anything?
Yeah, just anything. Just shout it out.
Definitely the connections I made. Hands down. I thought I was just gonna just relax and, you know, get through the weekend. But yeah, I actually made some, I actually interact with people, and I actually got the connections, and now we're just like, oh, we're buddies now. Great. So yeah.
I think definitely on that note, like, big shout out to Logan Rivera for sure, you know. Like, oh my goodness. But on my end, connection is one thing. Definitely connection is one thing. But the other thing is, like, realizing that, oh my goodness, I can actually win something, like, off of, like, small contests like this. Like,
remember when I could have won a chair?
Oh!
Ouch!
That hurts.
Yeah, oh man, trust me, it still stings, okay?
Yeah.
I feel you, okay? But, no, like, that was some confidence booster, you know? Like, I'm just like, cause, long story, but that actually gave me a boost of confidence, and like Deb says, connection, but it's possible because a lot of it is just so close, you know? Like, a lot of connections that you make are on hand, you know? So
yeah, they're all locals.
Yeah, like locals, yeah. So it's great that way, and it feels more comfortable making a connection that way. And a convention like this really does it.
I feel, for me, it's usually, with these kind of conventions, helps kind of get my creative juices flowing. Which sounds gross. But it's one of those things where a lot of the times I'll hear people talk about, you know, this classic series they're into, or I'll be looking at some art, or I'll be looking at, you know, a booth that has, you know, some very unique comics and things like that. And I'll start getting ideas for like, oh, well, what if I tried this? Or what if I did this? Or, hey, remember that old idea I had? What if I reworked it like this? And it kind of gets my brain kind of thinking about different little Tetris blocks and trying to put them together in different patterns to see what would actually work for my next major project. And since I'm trying to outline a major project and I'm starting to put the blocks together for that outline, I'm feeling really, really good about that. And it's rare that, you know, a convention can do that for me, but comic book conventions in general tend to, because they do bring in a lot of people who are more on the creative side, whether they're artists or writers or actors or whatever. Being able to talk with them or just listen to them or look at certain booths really does stuff for me. And considering, like, someone I met at the last Long Beach con, I thought could make a good contact, and then I found out more about the person, and then he got in trouble with the law. It put me kind of in a downer feeling of like, I don't know if I should talk to anyone anymore. And then going to this and feeling like my creative energy's boosting up again and going like, you know what? I'm glad I'm glad that didn't work out, because I wouldn't be planning through the things I'm planning through right now if I had gotten buddy-buddy with that person. So sometimes it's just allowing your mind to do what it wants to do.
I would say my favorite thing about Long Beach Comic Expo, it was a very mellow con for me, but that's a good thing for me. It was a great start for 2019. I really felt like I didn't have to be anywhere at a specific time. It was the type of con where I can just take things as it goes. And if I wanted to check out a panel, okay, this is kind of like a little bit of a mystery box thing type here without the descriptor. Okay, if I sit in, if I like it, cool. If I sit in and don't like it, I could always just leave. And I can also just take my time just wandering to the dealer's hall. I met up with a couple of friends who did photo shoots, so I kind of took this con just as it went. It was very, to me, it was very laid back. There was just nothing too exciting. I didn't have to like just meet at specific times for things, but it was just a con where I could just take it as it went. And also, Rock Bottom Brewery across the street is amazing.
That is a lifesaver for sure.
It is my preferred after party on a Sunday.
You want to go to my super cosplay after party at this one bar that doesn't cater to nerd culture at all? You sure? Because I need to head over there in like 5 more minutes because they're expecting me to be there wearing my like crazy ludist